Did I just finish reading this webcomic 5 minutes before filming this video? Yes. Yes, I did. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Webcomic Wednesday. I love just how that rolls off the tongue. I don't know, there's something about that little intro that makes my heart warm. Wow, my life's exciting. Anyways, so today we are going to be talking about the webcomic Chasing Cheshire, which is written by Andy Weir, and then the art is done by Sarah Anderson. It is completed, so no update schedules or anything like that. I'm not gonna lie, I was reading it on my phone and then my Tapas app kept crashing, so I switched over to my laptop, and when I saw that it hadn't been updated since 2019, I had like a minor heart attack because there was only 27 episodes, so I was like, is it just gonna end in the middle and there's gonna be no conclusion? But then I realized that they're just really long episodes that they posted and that the comic itself is actually done. So yes, you can read it on Tapas. I will link that down below, and there is also physical copies available if that's some way that you prefer to read it. So premise. This follows Dorothy Gale, so like from The Wizard of Oz, Alice, I think they call her Little is her last name or something like that, but I haven't read Alice in Wonderland, so I don't know if that's actually her last name, but that's where she's from. And then Wendy Darling from Peter Pan. And they get taken in by, I'm assuming it's supposed to be Rutherford and Bohr, which if you've taken a high school science class, you'll know all about them, because you'll have to have drawn the diagrams that show the atoms and the shells, you know, the things you do in science classes, I guess. They take them in, and they think that the girls think that they've been taken to another asylum because of their crazy ideas that they go to these other worlds, but in actuality the scientists know that they go there, and they want to be able to, I guess, analyze and help them figure out how they're able to get to these other worlds. And then through a series of crazy happenstances, there's kind of this like cross-world adventure villain narrative where they kind of have to take on Captain Hook and the Wicked Witch of the West, which is quite interesting. It does kind of end with like an open-ended cliffhanger. Not really cliffhanger, but like definitely there could be another book, but there hasn't seemed to be any plans to release one yet. Alright, today we're going to start with characters, which I think I flipped from the last video yet again. But yes, so let's talk the main three characters. Alice has a mouth on her like a sailor, and I really appreciate it. I think at one point she's wearing Dorothy's shoes, and Dorothy's like, can I have those back? And she's like, yeah, they make me look like a candied whore, and just, I love it. I just love how like vile and bitter she is sometimes, and she's just like, I don't give a fuck about anyone, because, you know, we love that attitude. We love this strong, independent woman. She's like, I'm not gonna get trapped in this place. I'm getting out of here. So I really appreciate that. Wendy is very much kind of like this like punk tomboy-esque portrayal of her, which I really appreciate. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate in general about the comic, is it doesn't write these female protagonists as like the damsel in distress. Like they're very much in charge of their own narrative and being able to take over the city in some ways and like have that power and authority and autonomy, which is amazing. And then there's Dorothy. So Dorothy's kind of like bookish and shy, and I guess a little bit more like level-headed than the other two, I guess, in some way, which is interesting. There's also their nanny, Nanny Poppins. So if you can't figure out who that is, give it the name Poppins a little Google and let me know what comes up. But that's really interesting, the way that they weave some of that into the narrative as well. And then the main villains that we focus on are James Hook and the Wicked Witch of the West. One of the things that I really like is the way the magic works, particularly with the Wicked Witch of the West. And I also really love the way that she's drawn compared to kind of like the traditional green version of the Wicked Witch of the West that we're used to in Oz. The like cross narratives are really interesting, and the way that the relationship gets built up between Captain Hook and the Wicked Witch of the West is something that I really enjoy. Alright, moving on to plot. So the plot of the story, obviously, as I said in the premise, it follows these girls being taken to or invited to what they think is a sanatorium or asylum, and is actually the scientists wanting to research them. They're left on their own, and basically Alice wants to stage an escape mission, so she ends up stealing Dorothy's shoes and then accidentally taking her and Wendy to Oz. Through the, like, rescue mission that ends up happening, in that process, the Wicked Witch of the West ends up in Neverland, and then she befriends Captain Hook, and they kind of make this pact for him to, like, for her to help him in Neverland, and then for him to help her get her castle back in Oz. So it's very interesting because the girls are constantly, like, interacting with each other's narratives. So you'll have, like, Dorothy in Neverland, and then you'll have, like, Wendy ending up in Wonderland, and all of them, like, ending up in Oz, which is really interesting to see the way that the story weaves those things together. And the story also does a really good job at playing with some of those little Easter eggs. So I don't want to get into the Easter eggs too much, because I'm going to include that in my why you should read it, why I love this. So yes, to talk a little bit more about those Easter eggs, the story is very well researched in the sense that it draws really well from the source material. Obviously, as I've said, I haven't read Alice in Wonderland, but these characters are so well known and their stories are so well known that I think it's very easy to, like, understand where they're picking up from. I think I read Peter Pan, but it was a really long time ago, and I honestly don't know if I finished it. And then I haven't read The Wizard of Oz, but I read a graphic novel adaptation of it, which was really well done. I can't remember who it was by. If I remember, maybe I'll drop the link down below. And I haven't read Mary Poppins either. Wow, have I read any of these books? I don't know. Maybe I just know them from pop culture. But yes, some of, like, the little things, kind of the way that they weave Tinkerbell into the narrative and Tinkerbell's feelings for Peter Pan is really well done. Smee showing up in the background as well. The drink me potions and the, like, little eat me things from Wonderland appear throughout the story as well. And Oz with the poppy fields and the monkeys and everything like that. And they also kind of, like, make fun of some of those things. So, like, the way that, like, throwing water on a witch makes her melt. And also, like, when she tells the monkeys, like, fly, they're like, what did you think we were gonna do? Walk? So things like that are really interesting to me, and it just shows kind of the care that went into the narrative, which is something that I really appreciate, being able to recognize the time and effort that went into that. Something else that I thought of when I was talking about Peter Pan that I really appreciate, and this is probably just a big thing for me as an Indigenous person, is how many times can we have a garbage representation of Indigenous people in a Peter Pan narrative? Not just talking about the source text itself and the problems that come with that, but even thinking of, like, Pan, which is a fairly recent movie that ended up whitewashing the character of Tiger Lily, and having characters in this narrative that are actually drawn in a very culturally sensitive way, and understanding the medicine processes and the way that people would actually live their lives, and having, like, honest representations of Indigenous people. Wild. Who would have thunk that someone could have done it? But that was just, like, one really tiny thing that, like, a lot of people wouldn't think twice about, but, like, for me as an Indigenous person to be able to be like, oh my gosh, this isn't a super offensive caricature. This isn't Disney's Peter Pan, where there's a song that's called What Makes the Red Man Red. Wonderful. I'll take it. The other thing that I think I touched on a bit already, was I really like the way the Wicked Witch of the West is written, but I also really just love her dynamic with Captain Hook, because they have this very much, like, there's definitely some tension, some romance going on there. They're like, oh, I love the amount of destruction that you can bring to these children. Let's run off into the sunset together, and it's just really funny. Not funny to me, but also just, like, wholesome in some way. I think that's one other thing that ends up being a point in the narrative that I'll mention without, like, getting too much into spoilers, and then I'll probably leave it there, is the fact that Peter Pan ends up eating something in Wonderland that, like, causes him to grow up a little bit, and then he has, like, this phase where he's, like, going through puberty, and he's like, I don't know what to do with my body, why do I have all these weird feelings? And it's really funny to me. I mean, like, as someone who's ace, it's like, I don't necessarily understand all those weird feelings, but I understand that other people feel those things, and it is funny to watch Peter go through that process. Yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to say for this video. It's a really short comic. Like, I think I just read it in maybe an hour, half an hour, I don't know, I wasn't timing myself, but if you just kind of have a rainy afternoon or you need a little break in between the book that you're reading right now, it's definitely something that I would recommend taking some time to check out. And of course, leave comments, ink, whatever you can to let the creators know how much it means to you. Sarah Anderson, who is the illustrator, also has her own webcomic called Fangs, which I will be doing an episode on at some point, as well as she's most known for her books, the Sarah Scribbles series, which I really love. And I think that's one other thing is I just love seeing like the different dynamics of artists and how like broad their artistic experiences and representations are, because I think a lot of times there's this idea that if you're an artist, you have to have your style and it has to be very obvious that something's written in your style, but the art of like Fangs compared to this comic compared to the Sarah Scribbles series is like all over the place, and it just shows the amount of wonderful talent that she has. So please let these people know that they did a good job. As always, if you have any suggestions for webcomics, books, thoughts, opinions, feel free to leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. You can follow me on my Goodreads or my Instagram, and feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I love hearing from all of you, and make sure that you ring the bell if you subscribe so that you get notifications when there's new videos coming out. And I will see you all in the next video. I was gonna say a date, but I don't know when. Who knows what we'll be doing. It'll be as much a surprise to you as it is to me. Alright, bye.